Welcome to Leadership Devotionals. Today we are inside an exciting series because we are talking about the principles of the leadership of Jesus. And so in the last episode, we talk about Christ and His mission. We talk about, how Jesus was led. Jesus was constantly seeking His Father's will, submitting to His Father's agenda. And all of these principles, it was because He said that He was sent here on earth on a mission. We know the text in John 6 verse 38 says, "For I am come down from heaven, not to do my will, but the will of Him," referring to His Father, "who sent me." He was here on a mission. And as He led, Jesus never lose sight of the fact that His leadership is not about Him. It was always about His Father. Okay? Even though He was already leading His people, it was not about Him. It was always about His Father and the mission that has been entrusted to Him. And so, my fellow leaders, it is very, very important that when we lead, let us always remember that we are stewards of the mission that we are accomplishing. We are stewards entrusted with this leadership position, and likewise we are stewards and we are entrusted with the mission that we are going to accomplish. If we are always cognizant of that fact, we will be able to lead as Jesus led. Christian leaders, therefore, are men and women who had been invited by God to join Him in a mission. Okay? In whatever leadership position you are, you have been placed there by God, and you are invited to accomplish that mission. They are people who view leadership as mission and not as a career. And they know that without mission, leadership is destined to lose its focus and will only lapse to personality worship. That's why you, my fellow Christian leaders, we know that leadership, as what Henry and Robert Blackaby in their book Spiritual Leadership has asserted. He says, leadership move people on God's agenda. That is their definition of leadership. We move people on God's agenda. God's agenda is God's mission. And that's where we move people. And so let us go to the second episode. The second episode is entitled, Why Servants? Okay? Why servants and slaves? Why this kind of concept of leadership? Every cursory reading of the gospel will reveal that Jesus practiced and even embodied what we popularly know today as servant leadership. Now, we will be studying today the author of servant leadership. Christ never aspired to overwhelm those He led with His power and authority, declaring instead in Mark 10 verse 45, He said, "For the Son of Man," again referring to Himself, "for the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve." Okay? He said, again I repeat, "For the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give His life as a ransom for many." We know that in the giving of life, He was able to open the doors of salvation for all of us. It was His mission to seek and to save that which was lost. That's why corollary to this mission, to seek and to save that which was lost, Mark 10:45 says, "The Son of Man did not come to be served, but He came to serve." Over and over, Jesus sought to drive home the truth that leadership is about servanthood by using two terms, two Greek words. That is one, diakonos, and the other one is doulos. And of course, their derivatives. Now, what is diakonos? Diakonos captures and conveys the idea of serving, of, putting food on table, on waiting on tables, of serving, of washing the feet of your master, of bringing the towel and the outer garment of your master. Of servants, where they have an outer garment and there's a servant who stands in the door, and when the master comes in, takes off his outer garments and gives it to the servant. Of serving, that is diakonos, serving tables, and connotes humility and attitudes associated with service. And so this is a very, very humbling job. Diakonos. That came, of course, this is now the root word of our words today, our modern words today in the church. We call deacons. Deacons come from the word diakonos. Okay? Diakono. The second is doulos. Doulos conveys service grounded in obedience, rendered because one has given up certain rights. Given up certain rights in a sense, like for example, if you are a prisoner of war, you are the spoils of war. A person is a spoils of war. They become doulos. They become servants. They become slaves. And they are sold in the market, and they are bought by their masters, and they become doulos. So these two words, okay, these two words in the ancient Near East basically are words that are coupled, and they are associated with derision. We know that servants and slaves before, they have no value. They can just simply be, they are just like commodities that can be bought or sold from the market. That was the concept of servants and slaves before. That's why, while the disciples of Jesus were traveling to Capernaum, an argument arose who would be the greatest in the kingdom of God, and it has erupted among them, prompting Jesus to say, "Look, guys, remember this." And we can find this in Mark 9, verse 35. It says, "Anyone who wants to be first must be the last." Anyone among you who wants to be first must be the last. And he must be the servant of all. He must be the slave of all. Jesus was trying this time to already twist. Okay? It's a radical twisting of their mindset about leadership. The feud, however, continued in the days that followed, ending with Jesus using the occasion to differentiate between the authoritarian rule that was basically rampant on those times, authoritarian rule of people who are outside of God's kingdom, and this kind of ruling, this kind of serving, this kind of leadership that will be characterized by the people of God. Jesus tried to put out a contrast between the two. And we can read this in Matthew 20, verse 25 to 28, when he said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them." These Gentiles, they lord, okay? They lord it over them. And their high officials exercise authority over them. Their high officials lord it over. They have authority, and there may add they have power over them. But he said to his disciples, but not so with you. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Again, I repeat that. Instead, okay, this is the contrast that Jesus was trying to tell his disciples. Instead, okay, instead of lording it over, instead of having power and authority over your subordinates, instead, okay, so fellow leaders, this is the contrast now. He said, whoever wants to be great among you, he must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must be your slave. And he did not stop there. He placed himself as an example to show to his disciple that this kind of contrast, this kind of leadership, this kind of radical move in leadership, I am going to model this for you. Because he said, just as the Son of Man, again referring to himself, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. Matthew 20:25-28. And so here we can see the elements, the fundamentals, the foundations of servant leadership slowly, little by little, established by Jesus. He established the leadership that serves. He established the leadership that puts others first. He established the leadership that is selfless in nature, as compared to those who are lording it over authority and power as selfish in nature. Jesus contrasted it with a leadership that is selfless in nature, putting the interest of others first, putting the interest of his people first by serving them. Fellow leaders, if we want to lead like Jesus, let us be ready to humble ourselves. Let us be ready to serve our people. Let us be ready to serve like Jesus. God bless you. Hello, fellow leaders. If you have been blessed with the devotional that you have just heard, don't forget to like, share, or subscribe. Because when you do that, more people, more leaders will be blessed with the same blessing that you have experienced. In YouTube channel, click subscribe to Good Shepherd Consultants. God bless you.